we should be paid more, and hopefully that's the case moving forward as the league continues to grow. I think that's something that's probably the most important thing that we're in the room advocating about.
Caitlin Clark just sent shockwaves through the WNBA world with 3 words that have every Indiana Fever fan losing their minds right now. 100% healthy. After a season that felt like it barely started before it ended.
Clark to know where she stands after what was let's just keep it real, a disastrous season for Caitlin Clark fans, for Caitlin Clark.
After months of speculation, worry, and endless questions about when, or if, she'd return to her dominant form, the face of women's basketball has finally confirmed what we've all been desperately waiting to hear. She's back. She's ready. And the timing?
What is the status of Caitlin Clark? The groin, which can be such a concerning injury, as we found out, a nagging injury.
It couldn't be more critical. But here's where things get interesting and honestly a little complicated. Because while Caitlin Clark is gearing up for what could be the most important season of her young career, her teammates...
She wants to try to play. Let's go here. Caitlin Clark hits the links. Fever star back to 100%.
Sophie Cunningham just dropped a bombshell that has everyone talking. And it's not exactly the feel-good story Fever fans were hoping for. This isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about money, respect, and the very future...
Back to NBCOlympics.com, because we know she's got an eye on Team USA right now. WNBA superstar Caitlin Clark is back on
the Indiana Fever as we know it. So buckle up, because what's unfolding right now could change everything. Let's rewind to where this all started. The 2025 WNBA season was supposed to be Caitlin.
So, if the Indiana Fever, or as Stephanie White tries to give us any other kind of update,
Clark's victory lap after an electrifying rookie campaign that had the entire sports world buzzing. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. 13 games. That's all we got. 13 games before a groin injury.
Right. So, Sophie Cunningham, she was also at this event as the caddy, right? Her and Lexi Hall, the celebrity,
shut everything down and sent Clark to the sidelines for the remainder of the season. Her last appearance on the court was July 15th, and from that moment on, Fever fans were left in limbo, watching from the outside as other teams battled for playoff positioning.
Cunningham said of Caitlin Clark, per Golf Week, Beth Ann Nichols. Cunningham, 29, highlighted Clark's ability.
While their superstar sat in street clothes, nursing an injury that seemed to linger longer than anyone expected. The anxiety was real. The questions were relentless. Would she come back the same player? Was this injury more serious than they were letting on? And perhaps most terrifying of all,
October 31, but both sides agreed on a 1-month extension. He goes on to talk about most players who are not on rookie contracts.
All for Indiana supporters. Would this be the beginning of a career plagued by setbacks? But Caitlin Clark isn't the type to stay quiet when people doubt her. During a recent appearance at the Annika Pro-Am Golf Tournament at Pelican Golf Club in Florida, Clark...
And she has said that she would like to come back to the Fever, but she's going to listen. Said she wants to buy...
sat down with Golf Channel and delivered the news everyone needed to hear. She looked into that camera with the same confidence that's defined her game since her Iowa days and said it plain and simple. She's back to 100%. No hedging. No, almost there.
And then we noticed something, and I've noticed something. Alyssa Thomas, Nika Agumake, both signed with Project.
Getting close. 100% healthy, ready to ball. And counting down the days until May 2026, when the WNBA tips off again. For a fan base that's been holding its collective breath for months, this was like oxygen. This was hope restored.
Deal or something over there. Well, she wouldn't have to worry about money from that point on. She's got a ton of sponsorships, and I'm sure, technically speaking, she could probably...
This was the confirmation that the player who single-handedly changed the trajectory of women's basketball wasn't going to let an injury derail her destiny. Now, you might be wondering why Clark was at a golf tournament.
Aches and pains. 6 foot tall. It's just... is what it is, you know?
Instead of playing in the unrivaled league that's been making waves this offseason. Here's the thing. She made a calculated decision, and honestly, it was probably the smartest move she could have made. While other stars are competing in the upstart 3-on-3 league, banking extra checks and staying game ready.
Look down and realize YouTube has unsubscribed you from this channel. Unbeknownst to you, but we have found that out through a couple of live streams.
Clark chose the road less traveled. She chose complete and total recovery. She chose to give her body the time it needed to heal properly, to rebuild, to come back stronger rather than rushing the process and risking another setback. And you know what? That takes incredible maturity for a player who's probably itching to compete every single day. The unrivaled league will be there in future years. But Caitlin Clark's career, her long-term health, her ability to dominate for the next decade, that's what's really at stake here. So she played golf. She hung out with teammates. She worked on her game behind the scenes. And now, she's ready to make her third WNBA season, the one that defines her legacy. But here's where the story takes a turn, and it's a turn that has massive implications for everything we just talked about. Because while Caitlin Clark was out there swinging golf clubs and dropping health updates, her teammate and caddy for the day, Sophie Cunningham, was dropping truth bombs that cut right to the heart of what's wrong with the WNBA right now. Picture this, Caitlin and Sophie out on the golf course, enjoying what should be a light-hearted Pro-Am event, building chemistry, talking about the future. Cunningham, who's known for her sharp shooting and her unfiltered personality, started talking about how much she missed having Clark on the court this past season. She talked about how Clark elevates everyone around her, how the entire team plays differently when number 22 is running the show. The admiration was genuine, the respect was obvious, and then Cunningham said something that every Fever fan wants to hear. She wants to come back next season. She wants to run it back with this core group. She wants to be part of what could be something special in Indianapolis. But, and this is a massive but, there's a catch. Actually, there are several catches, and they all revolve around something that's been brewing beneath the surface of the WNBA for months now. The collective bargaining agreement. 3 letters that might not sound exciting. But trust me, they're about to determine whether we even have a WNBA season in 2026, let alone whether Sophie Cunningham will be wearing a Fever jersey when the ball tips off. When a fan on social media urged Cunningham to re-sign with Indiana, she hit them with 4 words that said everything. Tell them to pay us. No corporate speak. No diplomatic deflection. Just raw, honest frustration about the economic reality that WNBA players are facing right now. And that statement, as simple as it sounds, just ripped the Band-Aid off a wound that's been festering in women's basketball for years. Let's talk about what's really happening here, because this is where things get messy and, frankly, a little scary for fans who just want to watch their favorite players compete. The WNBA and the Players Association are locked in negotiations over a new collective bargaining agreement, and the current one expires at the end of this season. We're talking about everything from salaries to benefits to working conditions, and right now, the 2 sides are miles apart. The players are pushing for fundamental changes that would reflect their actual value to the league, especially in an era where someone like Caitlin Clark can single-handedly boost attendance by thousands, where jersey sales are through the roof, where TV ratings are hitting numbers that seemed impossible just a few years ago. But the league is playing hardball, and there's a very real possibility that if these negotiations don't get resolved, we're looking at a lockout. A lockout that would delay or even cancel the start of the 2026 season. A lockout that would put Caitlin Clark's triumphant comeback on hold. A lockout that could scatter players across overseas leagues as they chase the money they can't get at home. And this is where Sophie Cunningham's comment hits different. When she says, "Tell them to pay us," she's not just talking about herself. She's speaking for every player who's watching their male counterparts in the NBA make $30, $40, $50 million a year, while WNBA stars are making low 6 figures and supplementing their income by playing in Turkey or Russia during the off-season. She's speaking for every player who sells out arenas and then has to fly commercial while fighting for middle seats. She's speaking for Caitlin Clark, whose economic impact on the league is undeniable, but whose salary doesn't come close to reflecting her value. And here's the uncomfortable truth that WNBA fans need to understand. If this CBA doesn't get done, if the league doesn't step up and pay these women what they're worth, we could see an exodus that changes the entire landscape of women's basketball. Sophie Cunningham might want to return to Indiana, but want and financial reality are two different things. If another team or another country offers her twice the money, can anyone really blame her for taking it? So let's paint the picture of what's at stake here. Best case scenario, the WNBA and the players reach an agreement before the season. The collective bargaining agreement gets done, salaries go up, benefits improve, and players like Sophie Cunningham decide that staying in the WNBA is worth it. Caitlin Clark comes back in May fully healthy. Cunningham is beside her draining threes, and the Indiana Fever core that showed so much promise before injuries derailed everything is intact and ready to compete for a championship. This team, when healthy, has the pieces. They have the star power in Clark. They have the shooting in Cunningham. They have young talent developing around them. If everything breaks, right, if the business side gets handled and the basketball side stays healthy, the Fever could absolutely be contenders. They could be the team that everyone's talking about in June when the playoffs roll around. This is the dream scenario, the one that has fans buying season tickets and planning their summers around Fever basketball. But we also have to talk about the nightmare scenario, because pretending it doesn't exist would be irresponsible. Worst case, these CBA negotiations drag on, neither side budges, and we hit a lockout. The season gets delayed or shortened. Players start looking at overseas options because they have bills to pay and families to support. Sophie Cunningham, who clearly wants to be in Indianapolis, gets an offer from a EuroLeague team that doubles her WNBA salary, and she takes it. Other key players on the Fever roster face similar decisions. Free agency becomes a bloodbath as teams lose talent they can't afford to keep under the current system. And Caitlin Clark, 100% healthy and ready to dominate, is sitting at home because there's no league to play in. That's not speculation. That's a genuine possibility if the business side of this league doesn't get its act together. And it would be an absolute tragedy, not just for Fever fans, but for the entire sport of women's basketball. Here's what makes this moment so critical. Caitlin Clark isn't just any player. She's a cultural phenomenon. When she plays, attendance numbers explode. When she's on national television, ratings double or triple compared to games without her. Her jersey outsells almost everyone in the league. She's brought fans to women's basketball who never watched before, and she's done it with a combination of skill, charisma, and competitive fire that's impossible to manufacture. The league knows this. Every owner knows this. Every sponsor knows this. And yet the question remains, are they willing to invest in the product in a way that reflects that reality? Because Sophie Cunningham's comment wasn't just about her contract. It was a challenge to the league itself. Prove that you value what we bring to the table. Prove that we're more than just a charitable side project or a feel-good story. Pay us like the professionals we are, and then watch what we can accomplish. The championship window for the Fever is right now. Not 5 years from now. Not someday in the distant future. Right now. Caitlin Clark is entering her prime. The supporting cast is in place. The chemistry is building. But championship windows don't stay open forever, and they definitely don't stay open through lockouts and contract disputes and roster turmoil. The Fever are competing in a league where the Las Vegas Aces are loaded, where the New York Liberty are stacked, where competition is fierce and the margin for error is razor thin. Every season matters. Every game matters. And losing even 1 year to labor disputes could be the difference between building a dynasty and watching a golden opportunity slip away. So where does this leave us? Caitlin Clark is healthy, motivated, and ready to remind the world why she's one of the most electrifying players in basketball. Sophie Cunningham wants to be part of the journey, but she needs the league to meet her halfway. And hanging over all of it is this collective bargaining agreement drama that could make or break the 2026 season before it even starts. Fans are caught in the middle, wanting desperately to support their team while also recognizing that the players have a legitimate grievance. This isn't about greed. This is about respect. This is about a league that's experiencing unprecedented growth, finally sharing that success with the athletes who made it possible. The next few months are going to be crucial. Every negotiation session, Every statement from the Players Association, every move the league makes will have ripple effects that determine not just whether Sophie Cunningham returns to Indiana, but whether the WNBA can capitalize on this moment or squander it. Caitlin Clark did her part. She got healthy. She's ready to go. Now it's time for everyone else, the owners, the league office, the negotiators on both sides, to do their part and make sure there's actually a season for her to return to. Because the clock is ticking, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the future of the Fever, and honestly the future of the entire WNBA, hangs in the balance. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over, and what happens next could change everything.